A threat that may be even more difficult to check is the legion of ideologues with a license to practice law and a desire to dismantle the world around them. Case in point, Baker Jack Phillips, their target. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with Jack Phillips from the heavily publicized case Masterpiece Cake Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission. The case involved a gay couple who asked Phillips to create a custom-designed cake to celebrate, they say, their gay wedding. Phillips politely refused, explaining that to do so would violate his faith, but that the two men were welcome to buy any other baked goods he had. The couple filed a complaint with the aforementioned Colorado Civil Rights Commission, who tried to force Phillips to bake the gay wedding cake against his will. With the help of the Alliance Defending Freedom, Phillips appealed the case all the way to the Supreme Court, where he secured a narrow victory. But if you or he thought that he could go back to baking his cakes in peace, we were all wrong. Now, a man who goes by the name of Autumn Scardina has filed a new complaint with the Colorado Civil Rights Commission claiming discrimination in violation of the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act, because Phillips refused now to design a cake celebrating Scardina's so-called gender transition. Are there no bakeries run by LGBTQ people out there in Colorado? Will Jack Phillips ever be able to bake a cake in peace? Here to answer all those questions and to give us the details on where the case stands today is one of the attorneys with the Alliance Defending Freedom, who has been working to help Mr. Phillips on this case. Jack Warner serves as senior counsel for the Alliance Defending Freedom's appellate team. Thanks so much for being here tonight, Jake.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Great. So where do things stand now for Jack Phillips, legally speaking, with this latest attempt to force him to just bake the cake, as they say?
Well, we just got out of court. On Wednesday, we were at the Colorado Court of Appeals asking that court to uphold the freedom of every American to say what they believe without fear of government punishment. Jack's third lawsuit, the one we're in right now, is about one thing. It's about free speech. Free speech in America is for everyone. On the same day that the U.S. Supreme Court decided to hear Jack's first case, a Denver attorney called Jack and requested a custom blue and pink cake to celebrate a gender transition. Now, this attorney had tracked Jack for years, calling him a bigot and a hypocrite back in 2012, and then calling him again to ask for a custom cake depicting Satan smoking marijuana. Well, Jack serves everyone, but he can't express every message through his custom cake, so he politely declined those requests. And then this attorney sued him in court. Last year, we had a trial over this matter, and last summer, the trial court entered an order punishing Jack for declining to express this message that goes against his core beliefs. And now we're up on appeal, arguing that the Colorado Court of Appeals should uphold his First Amendment freedom to say what he believes without fear of being punished.
It's just so obviously, in my mind, harassment, targeted harassment of this man who's just trying to bake, in peace. And as he said before, people of all stripes can come into a shop, buy whatever they want. He's just not going to custom design something that goes against his belief, but he's not denying service to, say, people who identify as being LGBTQ. Do you think that that's a big point to be made here, because there's a lot that weighs on it?
Certainly. Over the past decade, what we've seen is activists and government officials trying to punish people simply because they disagree with their views on some of life's biggest issues like marriage and gender. And that's not good for anyone here in America. We believe that the First Amendment protects not only people like Jack, but people who have wholly different views on these issues. A win for Jack is truly a win for all Americans, because if you think about it, the First Amendment protects also the LGBT web designer, for example, who wants to create custom websites consistent with their view about marriage. The government shouldn't be forcing them to express messages against their beliefs, just like it shouldn't be punishing Jack for declining to express a message that's in conflict with his core beliefs.
No, that's exactly right, because when you read Autumn Scardina, he says, and I have some of the quotes here, first trying to lie to the Civil Rights Commission in Colorado, saying, I was stunned he wouldn't bake this cake for me. But of course, as you were mentioning earlier, he'd been following the original, case that went to the Supreme Court quite closely, calling Jack Phillips a bigot the whole time. And the moment he could strike, he does so by asking for the gender transition cake, but then asking this commission here, saying he wanted to correct the errors in Phillips' thinking. I mean, that's a giant red flag if there is one. But many people watching right now might be confused, saying, well, didn't Jack Phillips win his case in 2018? And it was a narrow ruling. So what would you say to viewers who say, how's that not protecting him here again?
Well, that ruling should protect Jack here. Back in 2018, the U.S. Supreme Court made a decisive ruling in favor of Jack. They said that because Colorado officials had discriminated against him, denying Jack the same expressive freedom that they freely give other secular cake artists in the state, that they were hostile. Of course, state officials had also compared Jack to Nazis and slaveholders in that case. And for all these reasons, the court said we don't have to reach the free speech issue here. But even under the first ruling, Colorado hasn't abandoned this offensiveness rule, which allows cake artists to create freely, consistently with their deepest beliefs. The problem is that the district court, the trial court in this case, didn't apply that principle to protect Phillips. And up on appeal, we're arguing that principle still protects Phillips, just like the Supreme Court said back in 2018.
And that's, of course, what we're all praying for here, because it just feels like we're stuck in this madness loop where it's just being tried rehashed over and over and over again. So before I let you go tonight, what would be, for Jack Phillips, what would be the biggest victory here so we can stop this madness from happening yet again?
We hope the Court of Appeals will affirm the right not only of Jack, but of every American to say what they believe without fear of government punishment. The government simply shouldn't be targeting cake artists, photographers, filmmakers, others who deal in speech just because they disagree with their views on some of life's biggest issues. So a win for Jack would truly protect all Americans, especially those who are there in Colorado.
Well, Jake, God bless you and the work that you guys are doing out here. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.